Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi mining community, welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Stuart McDonald, who's the president and CEO of Vancouver headquartered Taseko Mines, a dynamic and growing mid-tier mining company that has driven to unlock the true value of copper for a complex and changing world. The company's corporate strategy has been to grow the company sustainable and profitability by focusing on the continued operation of its foundational asset, the Gibraltar Mine in central British Columbia, and the advancement of North America's next copper mine, Florence Copper in Arizona, while also advancing its pipeline of advanced stage development projects. Stuart is a senior corporate executive with over 30 years of experience in the mining, working in corporate development, finance and management roles. He's going to share his career and journey with us, the history of Taseko Mine, updates on the projects, their ESG initiatives, and the future of copper in the coming decades. Stuart, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, appreciate your time. You're obviously in London at the moment, as we can see in your background on the YouTube channel. So I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about your career from obviously when you maybe first graduated. Take us through how your career's developed to what it is today.
Sure. Yeah. No, I started out actually trained as a chartered professional accountant, a CPA in Canada. I worked with one of the big accounting firms, Deloitte, and got kind of interested in the mining sector. I actually joined the mining industry about 20 years ago, and been with a few mining companies over that time. Gained pretty fortunate. Gained some pretty relevant experience with different mining projects in North America and South America at different stages of development. And one of the main companies I worked for was Quadra Mining, actually, which was a multi-asset copper producer, five mines across the U.S. and Canada and Chile. And very much a believer in the copper sector and the growth of the metal, and had an opportunity in 2013 to join Taseko Mines. Pretty exciting opportunity. I joined as CFO, and one of the first things that we actually worked on after I joined the company was the acquisition of our Florence project, which it was 10 years ago, and that one's now in construction and going to become an operation for us very soon. So it's been a part of the management team now for over 10 years. And then 2021, our former CEO, Russ Hallbauer, retired, and I was given the great opportunity to step up and to take the CEO role as a leadership role for the company. Yeah, and pretty excited to take it forward here. I think we've got a great opportunity in the coming years to grow our business, and I've got a deep team and a lot of engineering expertise and operating mine operators on our management team as well that are ready to go forward and take advantage of the opportunities we have in front of us. So it's really full speed ahead now.
Okay. For those that may not be familiar, I just wanted to give us and I know you've just spoke a little bit about the company, but I just wanted to give us a bit of a more broader overview of Taseko Mines and some of the key projects and operations.
Yeah, certainly. We're really a North America focused copper producer. So we currently have one operating mine, which is the Gibraltar open pit copper mine. It's located in central British Columbia in Western Canada. It is a long-standing mine, a long history behind it, and a long life still in front of it. We have 21 years of reserves remaining. And Taseko's actually been operating the mine already for 20 years. So it's long mine life, stable copper producer that we've operated successfully, and really used cash flows from that operation to build out a portfolio of development stage projects. And the project that we're most excited about, it's going to become our second mine, is the Florence Copper project. That's in Arizona. That project is fully permitted, financed. It's in construction right now, and we're going to be producing first copper from that in Q4 next year, about a year from now, at the end of 2025. So that's quite a transformative event for us to move from a single asset to a two-asset producer, and then we've got more projects coming behind as well. Yellowhead Copper is one that maybe we can talk about as well, but that's be a longer dated copper development back in BC. So we're very much about organic growth. We've acquired projects at an earlier stage, and we move them through engineering and feasibility studies, through permitting and into construction with our expertise as open pit and copper miners. So
Yeah. Okay. As you mentioned, you're developing the Florence Copper project, which is in Arizona. What makes this project unique, and what are some of the key milestones or challenges you faced through advancing the project?
Yeah, it's Florence project's pretty unique in the copper world. It's an in situ copper recovery project, so a slightly different mining method than you would see at a conventional copper mine. That mining method really results in very attractive economics and very low cost mining. So we're able to recover and produce copper cathode here for a very low operating cost, around $1.11 a pound is our projected operating cost based on our feasibility study. It's also low capital cost and very low impact mining. So it's pretty exciting. We're very fortunate to have this asset in North America. There's obviously very few copper mines being built anywhere, and particularly in North America right now. So in a very unique position to own it and have this opportunity. As I said, we acquired it. We acquired the project over 10 years ago. It's been a long development process. We've developed the project in two phases. So phase one, we completed in 2018. We built a production test facility. And this was really a proof of concept to prove out our in situ mining method. And it was a very successful test and really a significant de-risking milestone for us. With the results from that test work, we updated our feasibility study, and then went into a permitting process again to develop our commercial scale facility. So we received that permit about a year ago, last fall, and we are now started construction. So we started construction earlier this year. We're almost half complete, and as I said, we're excited to get to commercial scale production in late 2025. Pretty exciting.
Yeah. With growing concerns over environmental impact of mining, how does Taseko work with local communities and regulators to ensure that its projects are responsible and sustainable?
Yeah, it's obviously a big part of our business. A top priority for us is obviously, in addition to safety, keeping our employees safe, but number two right behind that is protecting the environment. Certainly at Florence, given the mining method, we took that extra step of developing the production test facility to really prove that we could operate the mining method. It's solution mining. And so we took that extra time and that extra step to prove to the regulators that we could do it before we scaled up to commercial scale. So that's an investment of time and money, but in the long run, we know that we've got to operate our mines to a high standard to be successful. So yeah, it's really it's a critical aspect of our business. And the mining method of Florence, it's quite interesting. We're not digging a hole underground. It's not an open pit mine. We're drilling a well field into the ore body and injecting solutions. So there's very little surface disturbance. There's no tailings pond. no noise, no dust, no crushing and grinding or waste rock. So it actually has a lot of very positive environmental attributes, which are attracting interest to our project. And over time, we've developed strong community support for it too. So yeah, but no, you're right. It's the key component of being a successful mining company.
Yeah. This probably goes on to obviously my next question is obviously you've been touted for its low environmental footprint. And I suppose I just wondered if you can just tell us a little bit more about how the project is particularly eco-friendly compared to traditional mining companies and traditional mining operations.
Yeah, because we're not spending all that energy on crushing and grinding rock, you know, that's a massive savings in energy consumption, in water use, and in carbon intensity too. So we'll produce refined copper cathode with a carbon footprint about 80% less than a conventional copper mine. So that attracts interest from investors, but also quite interesting in the U.S. now. We have customers that are starting to take interest in more green products, EV manufacturers, consumer companies that want to have low carbon materials in their product. So over time, we're hopeful that we'll actually be able to develop and establish premium pricing for Florence's product because of those environmental attributes.
Given the move towards net zero that many countries obviously are making, especially in North America and Europe, what role does copper play in this and obviously the drive to electrification? How do you see the supply demand curve for copper in the short, medium, and long term?
Yeah, I mean, copper is really the metal of electricity, right? It's an essential ingredient for our shift from fossil fuels to electrification. And across the world, copper is used for that. That's its history, and that kind of macro trend is very positive for copper demand going forward. I think so that story, that electrification story, I think is well understood by many investors nowadays. I think sometimes what's a little bit overlooked in copper though is more on the supply side and the challenge that the industry has to grow the production that's in order to meet the demand. It's very challenging for the industry to bring on new capacity these days. High capital costs, permitting challenges, environmental considerations, social risks in different places around the world, and not to mention the financial markets are demanding high returns and demanding dividends. It's just a lot of demands on mining companies. We see that dynamic of growing supply growing demand from the energy transition, and actually in some cases falling supply, because as mines near their end of their life, they tend to shift to lower grade ores. So, the combination there, depending on what analysts you believe, it's currently a 25 million ton market that's balanced. 10 years from now, some analysts are predicting that we could have a 10 million ton shortfall in copper globally by the mid 2030s. So again, we know we're in the right business. We're happy that we're focused on copper, and so it's again a great opportunity for our company here as we build out our profile.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned that you've got obviously an interesting portfolio of assets and projects. How do you assess and prioritize new opportunities within the mining sector? And I suppose what factors do you consider most importantly, when you're evaluating potential acquisitions or new projects, and when you're obviously looking at new projects, what are you actually looking for? And also, I suppose, moving on from that, what does your development pipeline look like?
Yeah, I mean, we have taken an approach. We've really stuck to safe mining jurisdictions, and specifically in North America. I think British Columbia and Arizona, where we operate, are top tier jurisdictions with relatively low political risk. So we've avoided some of the riskier jurisdictions around the world that may have attractive looking deposits. They face other risks when mines are built, and we've seen examples of what can go wrong in different places around the world. So we like the low risk jurisdictions. Yeah, and we've been fortunate to in our acquisition strategy to be able to acquire projects at a low cost and also at an earlier stage of development, and then take the time and the patience required to actually move those projects through permitting studies, environmental permitting, feasibility engineering studies, and actually move them towards construction ourselves. And that with our own internal expertise. And that's really the way that I think you create value in mining over time is that organic approach. Yeah, so if you look at our portfolio now, we obviously have our Gibraltar Mine, which is, an established cash flow producer. We have Florence, which is now going to become our second mine, and we'll be ramping up or starting production a year from now and ramping up in 2026. And then we have our Yellowhead Copper project, which we acquired about 5 years ago. We've updated the feasibility study there. We're going to be reissuing some new economics on it in the middle of 2025 and beginning to move that one through a permitting process as well. And that could take, that permitting could take 4 or 5 years, but, we're patient. We'll wait for that. And we know that when we have that permit and, an attractive copper price, that could be a very exciting project for us down the road. So it's really a long-term game that we're playing here. And yeah, that's been our approach.
Yeah. Just wondering if you can just tell us a little bit about the executive and management team and obviously the key people that are obviously put this all together and driving the company forward.
Yeah, I mean, our chairman right now, Ron Thiessen, was actually the CEO of the company in the 90s, and he was actually, him and Bob Dickinson, our other director, were two of the key people that put together the acquisition of our Gibraltar Mine. And they acquired that mine, actually for $1 they acquired it for. And that was in 1999. At the time, the copper price was, it was a low copper price environment, and the mine was not running. They organized the restart of the mine in 2004, and at that time around about that time hired Russ Hallbauer, who was the CEO before me. He came from a tech Cominco with a long career as a mining operator and a mining engineer in their business. He joined Taseko around that time and really built up a strong operating team and a strong operating focus that have given us a lot of success at Gibraltar over the years. So Russ has now, when he retired, he's moved on to our board. Obviously, I worked with him as his CFO for 10 years, and it's been a great transition, and it's a great resource for me to have that expertise still on our board, and that history that's still on our board to kind of guide us forward. And then working with me on our management team, obviously we've got an engineering focus. Richard Tremblay, our COO, is a long time. He's actually a chemical engineer, but had a long mining career. He's 30 plus years of experience, and we've got 2 or 3 other kind of can't name everybody, but we've got a real, I would say, an engineering focus, both at the corporate executive level, and then we've really done I think a good job of having experienced people running our mines. So it really starts at the operations, as I said, having that focus on running our mines efficiently and productively.
Yeah. And lastly, what's the outlook for the company over sort of the next 6 to 12 months? And also what excites you most about the future of the company moving forward?
Yeah, in 2025, it's going to be a big year for us. First, at Gibraltar, we're seeing higher production in 2025. So 2024, we're expecting to come in around 105 to 110 million pounds. Next year, stepping up to kind of 120 to 130 million pounds. And that is, what I would say is a more normal run rate that you can expect to see in the coming years. So that gives us growth in profitability. We've still got a robust copper market with plus $4 copper, which, allows us to make a good margin and continued cash flows. And then, of course, Florence, right? We're going to see that mine complete the construction in 2025 and move into commercial scale production. When you look at our equity, our share price, we think there's a lot of opportunity here for investors as we transition from a one mine company to a two mine company. I think the markets aren't fully appreciating the growth that we're going to add with Florence. And so we're very optimistic about our share price too going forward. At Yellowhead, our third project, we're going to update the feasibility study probably in the summer of 2025. We'll publish an updated study reflecting the higher copper price environment that we're in, and some favorable tax rules that have come in Canada that in recent years that will help us improve the economics there. So that'll be another catalyst for that project as we continue to move it through permitting next year. So yeah, there's lots going on. It's going to be a very busy time for us in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, great. Stuart, appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your story, telling us about Taseko Mines. Obviously a busy year ahead, and obviously wish you all the best for 2025. Our audience wants to reach out to you. How can they go about doing that? What social media platform channels is the company on so people can get updates and news flow?
Yeah, I mean, the best way is to contact, get the contact details on our website and just reach out, phone, email, however, we're always happy to talk to people about, and tell our story and answer questions that may be out there. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, appreciate your time again, and have a good few days whilst you're still in London before you head back to Vancouver.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, thanks again, Rob, for having me on.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, please keep sharing these episodes far and wide. Share this episode with people within our industry, but also people outside our industry as well, so we can improve the image and branding of mining and make people outside of our industry really understand what mining is all about. So thank you again. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes, and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.